You have a tendency to be look very grave.
No.
See if it.
You look
suits
at me and laugh.
Okay.
How did Bimalda make the unit feel? How did Bimalda make the unit feel at the end of a film?
You see, at the end of a film, when it was completed, we used to feel the taste of good honey. We used to feel cool within, and used to feel that we are not going to compromise with any other kind of things that are happening outside. As long as he is there, we are sure of the continuation of this kind of feeling.
But you said he had the burden of a big unit to maintain.
Yes, in the beginning when success came, it was wonderful. People used to rave, but gradually you see the realities of the commercial market that set in. And the big unit to be maintained. So naturally, gradually, he started to feel the burden of it. And perhaps, I don't know, but even then I have a feeling that this kind of feeling at times would make him waver to an idea which he would not have perhaps taken up at the early stage of his career.
Like what idea? Can you give me an example?
Supposing at the later stage he took up an idea, it was good, but even then it was too less to have the return, to have enough return for maintaining a big unit. Like say, Parak was a very good film, but yet it was small. The whole thing, that's dimension, commercial prospects were less at that time when things started to change. And again, there was a film which he didn't direct, but he produced, Benazir. And again, a film called, Benazir. That is the last example, which will illustrate that he was worried about the unit, money was needed, and yet it was not available, and he had to go into such things which failed. Because with Bimal Roy's name, people had a peculiar kind of expectancy. So, a mediocre thing wouldn't satisfy the public. And therein, it became difficult. And his other members of his unit, they had not started directing for the concern, for Bimalda. So that's, I think, you see, made a great deal of difference, and the burden of it ultimately was somewhere, to me, a reason for his early death.
Do you think he would have been happier if he stayed in Bengal?
Well, when he came down, Bimalda from Bengal, he was naturally in a very good position, and the whole of India was talking about him, expecting good things. So naturally, he would have gone on doing other things, other kinds of stories which he dared not take up, you see, in Bombay. He could have easily done them there. But again, a man moves from one city to another city. It's not for a bigger amount of money alone. It's the historical process. You see, and I know when I got associated with Bimalda, it was more or less the same thing, because the partition of Bengal made a lot of difference. So new theatres started to dwindle. So we had to come because of a historical impact. And naturally, he would have felt better, but he had to come. He was to come. He was destined to come. And perhaps he did the right thing that way. He might have been selfish by doing other kinds of films, but at the same time, his arrival in the Bombay scene was very much required also, I think, because thereby he set a kind of standard and a kind of taste which were honored, and somewhere it did influence. And I think even now, Bimalda exists and is continuing in the shape of Rishikesh Mukherjee, in the shape of Gulzar. All these fellows, they are continuing with his tradition. If they are good not because of themselves alone, but because of what they took up from Bimalda.
Did he have problems with Hindi?
Well, naturally, a kind of problem remains, but at the same time, the basic understanding about Hindi was all right. You see, he used to understand, but while talking, he would naturally fumble, and created a lot of humor also at times. But he knew enough to understand Hindi. There was no problem that way.
Do you think his films needed more pace?
Well, you see, Bimalda belongs to that classic type who does not take into account the pace, what is understood by the modern kind of demand, which is very much there, that this film is very speedy, it was very fast, it was grand. On the contrary, Bimalda used to feel, somebody asked him, you see, now you call, somebody asked him, Bimalda, your films are great, but a little speed is needed, you know. So Bimalda gave a wonderful reply. And he said, Ki, Mr. I don't give out the name, Mr. Do you think that life is a continuous race course where horses are all the time running? Life is like that. It has its, you see, moments of speed, high speed. At the same time again, one walks, one sits to ponder. See? So I take life in totality.
With the appearance of Satyajit Ray, why do you think his importance lessened?
Well, it's very bad to say that way, but even then it did happen like that. You see, it's like that. Satyajit Ray is a wonderful example of all kinds of discipline which is possible for a great director. He is one of the greatest. Bimalda to us also was one of the greatest. And we take it this way that yes, his importance might have been ultimately he was not recalled that way, was not remembered that way. In fact, he is slightly neglected, I think, by the critics, but it does happen. The way of the world is such, and nobody remembers the historical process of things. And before Bimalda also there was a great director called Pramothosh Barua, but who remembers him? But whoever is a critic, whoever is serious, he knows, and history of films will definitely know at a certain time that Bimal Roy, when Bimal Roy made the advent of Satyajit Ray possible, he set the stage where Satyajit could walk in and contribute his Pathir Pachali, start contributing with his Pathir Pachali, because his Udayar Pathe set a standard, such a standard that the tastes completely differed, revolutionized, and it created a kind of situation where it was easy for Pathir Pachali to be taken. Though he had also confronted a great deal of opposition in the beginning, but all new ideas, new trends have to face this kind of opposition. So as such, I think that they are all contributory, complementary to each other somewhere. Bimal Roy did something which again geared up a situation wherein Satyajit Ray could come in. We are in fact helping each other, knowingly, unknowingly.
So you think Bimal Roy was the father of neorealism? And could you repeat the question and the answer?
Yes, I understand. Yes, it's a wonderful kind of a, you have put it wonderfully, Mr. Khalid, that was he the father of neorealism? Well, what happened, during the period he made his films, things were changing. The realistic approach was coming in. Udayar Pathe was his first film, the Bengali one, and that was realistic. But even then there was a bit of realism come romanticism also. It was realism of a romanticist in Udayar Pathe. But even then, you see, socialist realism, for the first time, was used by Bimal Roy in Bengali Udarpate or Hamrahi, the Hindi version. And socialist realism is also another kind of neorealism, which he fulfilled later on in his Dobagi Zamin.
What kind of a camera eye did he have? You talked about him.
Yeah. Bimalda, you see, had a wonderful camera eye, and as you know, that Bimalda started his career as a cameraman, and this camera eye, see, I mean to say that when, as a scriptwriter, we used to discuss, you see, there are always situations which just come in and have to be there. They are insignificant, yet they have to be there only to serve as a bridge or to help us in the transition of into another kind of a situation. But those small things, when they were executed by him, the framing up and the character, the placing of the character and the kind of things that were controlled by him as a cameraman, he used to give a dimension, and we used to feel, by God, this is an important scene, and we didn't realize, you see, at the writing stage. So he had that wonderful capacity. The whole thing used to look different. A small thing used to become significant, important.
Did he ever have any little noke joke with his actors, like say Dilip Kumar at the time of Yahudi?
You see, during the time of Yahudi, naturally Dilip is a wonderful, intelligent man. See, he is one actor who can convince you any situation he likes by his wonderful power of acting. So he used to try, naturally everyone tries to have his interests safeguarded. So naturally Dilip also, and we fondly still call him, used to call him Yusuf Bhai. Yusuf Bhai used to guard his interests. So during the discussion and the writing stage of Yehudi, and Yusuf Bhai used to come and would listen, like to listen about his role. So he was all the time, you see, trying to have better things. He used to suggest also, he is capable of that. So one day Bimalda said, Ki, Yusuf Bhai, you are very jealous and you are trying to take up all things upon your shoulders. How is that? Yusuf Bhai laughed and said, Ki, yes Bimalda, I have to look after the interest of Dilip Kumar, the actor. So Bimalda had never any tiff with an actor. What I mean to say, that Bimalda was so friendly and had a so lovable personality. Though reserved, we never used to feel uncomfortable in his presence, you know. Used to feel comfortable. At the same time, there was a kind of awe, a kind of reverence about an elder brother. That kind of a feeling we used to have while discussing with him. And we were never in tension. He never used to give out his tension, though he inwardly suffered a good deal during his later years.
Suffer in what way?
Suffered because of the burden, the vested interests, and a lot of money to be given to them, that kind of a thing. You see, the monetary part of it, the economics of the business, it was worrying him.
So because of Dilip's extra interest, did Meena Kumari and Surab Modi's role get sidetracked?
No, ultimately wonderful in Yehudi, I think, even now, it's watchable. My friends have said that it's a wonderful film. Even though, in fact, Yehudi got a new lease of life when it was released after 10 or 15 years. So I think justice has been done to all of them, and each of them, they attract your notice.
Which is your favorite Bimal Roy film?
Well, I think all my, whatever I have written for Bimalda was good. But to make, to point at something that this is my best, well, that way I think it was a very delicate handling in Sujata, and a greater kind of handling of a difficult, complicated, cruel subject is Bandini, which is still, I think, slightly ahead of, it was terribly ahead of its time at that time, And even now it's a difficult story, but he handled it wonderfully well. And I am proud that I wrote those things.
Did you have to change the ending of Naukri?
Yes. Well, it started, that's the starting point, you see, of the of what I said, that Bimal started to get worried about his unit, etc., and all that. You know, Naukri was a story which was to deal with the unemployed youth of India. Young men were unemployed, idle. So their pain, to make a case on their behalf, that was the idea we started with. So there was a debate whether it should be a tragedy or a comedy. Because if it is a tragedy, then it remains a pointer that the problem is still there, so that the country, the people who are watching, those who are in the government body amongst those people, or those who are thinkers or political leaders, they may be influenced and something can be done. Because the moment we are aware about certain thing, unconsciously or consciously we try to eradicate those problems. And that is how art works. Good art, you see, does that. So we had our ambition that way, that Naukri should try to solve that. So there was a debate whether a tragedy or, I personally, you see, opted for the tragic version. But ultimately, because the distributors were there, etc., so we got slightly, you see, shaken up, that if the people reject it, then who will watch it and feel for the unemployed? So ultimately, the unemployed young man who symbolized the unemployed youth of India did get a service at the end, and also a girl.
So do you think he went into fantasies because of commercial demands?
No, but here it happened like that, more or less, but it didn't happen with his last film, Bandini. There was a debate whether Nutan, the heroine, will go back to his old love, who is now old, suffering from TB, which was played by Ashok Kumar, or else go for Dharmendra, the young, bright, handsome doctor in the story. And there was a long debate, almost for 6 months it went on. And Bimal was just, you see, swinging between the two. Whether, you see, going back to the young man will be a more box office idea than going back to the older Ashok Kumar. But ultimately he was convinced. He was convinced, and he agreed with me that yet whatever the majority say, we are not going to listen to them. The story demands, because a story is set for a final end. The moment we start a story, we know what the end should be. If we do not know, then we are in difficulties. So when we started writing Bandini, we knew that she has to go to Ashok Kumar, because he was the first lover. And all that happened, it was because of her love, her peculiar, obsessive love for Ashok Kumar. And that's why he committed a murder. She committed a murder even. So naturally she has to go back to that, or else she is not a good girl. She is not a lover. She doesn't prove what the theme is, love. So ultimately it was kept up like that. She went back. But that means the end was not touched, could not be touched. So here all those commercial possibilities, etc., the lure of things as advocated by other friends and the unit members were not accepted by Bimal.
As an assistant, did you feel that you deserved a break as a director and you never got one?
No, in fact Bimal offered me direction after Sujata, to me and to Shalin Chaudhary. Then the moment we started to give him stories, you see, situations started to happen. Bimal Roy Productions, bad time started, you see.